What is going on, my fellow history lovers? And today we're going to be visiting the Western Front, the Saar Offensive, that time when France actually invaded Germany and was the first one to really take the offensive in World War II. Now, as we discussed last week, it was the Battle of Westerplatte. Now, this is when many would consider World War II kind of kicked off at 4 in the morning. There, September 1st in Poland, when Germany would fire the first rounds into a battle, or, well, what many consider the first rounds. There was a lot of battles that started on the very first day, so it's kind of hard to pin it just to one location. Now, a couple days after that, France and Britain would declare war on Germany. Now, not really a whole lot would happen, or at least from what people think, not a whole lot would happen. Well, France would actually take the initiative a little bit. So war is declared on September 3rd. Germany knew that as soon as they attacked Poland because of the treaty, there would be war declared almost immediately. But Germany, with its new military tactics, had faith that it could get done in Poland really quick and then bounce back to any front line that would have started. Now, Britain was very cautious on starting in the offensive. France, not really. They were kind of the first ones, and we're going to take a look at this today with the Saar Offensive. And what you see here is the battle map for it. This is a very broad battle map. It doesn't have all of the towns listed. I saw a couple of battle maps that had every single town listed in this area, but it's kind of a cluster, so I wanted this more simplified version. That way it's easier for us to follow, because there were a handful of battles. There was some fighting in all of the towns in this area, but this has the important towns that we need to discuss today. Yes, every town is important, but this is where the main offensive was targeting. So the Saar Offensive was basically France wanting to not just take a chunk out of Germany, but it was really to hurt German resource supplies. Because you had this area right here next to the German border. I'm just going to say Saar because I can't really pronounce German names too well. This was an industrial town that was really known for developing a lot of the resources that Germany need for her war machine, like steel. So they wanted to take this out of the equation in hopes that it would help Poland in their fight. Now, Germany, having invaded Poland at this point, put all of her resources over there. We are talking there's little to no aircraft in Saar or around the German border, which you can see that orange line going across is the Siegfried line. The German border is this dotted line right here that kind of comes in over everything. So they wanted to take that small chunk of Germany there in Saar, and they had no aircraft to really defend themselves. Germany put 90% of her resources, her men, her vehicles, and everything into Poland. Now, that was kind of the key for the Blitzkrieg and how it worked. So Germany on its border, about 100,000 men strong and only about 100 artillery pieces. That's it. That's all the commanders had to work with on the German front lines. But they knew that they could hold back Germany hold back France because they had high-spirited men. The men knew about the invasion of Poland and the recent grab of territory by Germany lately, so they were high on victory right now still. And France, a little bit of political turmoil, because yes, they wanted to help Poland in this war, but the people of France didn't want another great war. So even their own military conscripts were kind of down on their morale, because it's we don't want another brutal fight that's going to cost us 1 million men, Nobody wanted that. They didn't agree with what Germany was doing, but they didn't want to fight them either. So France gets 40 divisions ready for this invasion. 11 of them used for Saar. They did not want to go all out. They had 40 divisions here on standby, mostly infantry, a couple of armored divisions, and a couple of artillery divisions. But they could not logistically get all of them ready in a 4 days' time to invade into Germany, because the offensive started September 7th, 4 days after they declared war on Germany. Now, France, still very outdated. We're talking outdated weapons, outdated modes of transportation. The Blitzkrieg uses all new forms of military, like its use of vehicles and to get troops from place to place really quickly. Like, they took Poland in just a little over a month. That's never really been heard of now. So France don't really have a lot of vehicles. They haven't spent time getting their military ready for war because nobody really thought about another great war, and we were really busy dealing with the Great Depression at the time. So artillery pieces by France actually still hauled by horses at this point in time, and the French commanders are still got their mindset on the Great War and the tactics used at that point, which is trenches. It was basically like siege tactics. You would set up a defense line and just constantly hit your enemy until either one of you was worn down enough to retreat and basically abandon anything you took. So France, having this outnumbering of Germany like 2-1, 3-1 in all of these places, still didn't really take a whole lot of land. They didn't even get to their objective of Saar. Now, Germany, knowing it's low on supplies, would be using these forests as their advantage. You're talking hiding behind trees, hiding in the foliage, using rivers to slow down your enemy by destroying bridges. It was almost kind of like a Soviet-style tactic where you make sure nobody can advance no matter how good they are. And they still had the minefield set up for extra defense in this area. So France did take 12 towns. Like, the majority of this territory you see over here was taken without even firing a bullet at all. Well, that's because Germany didn't really want to engage. They knew they were outnumbered. They knew they were outgunned in a one-on-one confrontation. So for the most part, they didn't really want to engage until they started getting closer to the Siegfried line. As soon as France started getting closer to this line, Germany would really start to fight back. And now, not a single shot was fired, but certain things were destroyed. Like I said, this was a minefield at the same time. And so France did actually lose 4 tanks in this small town right here of Lesbrac. They would be destroyed by the minefield surrounding the town. Now, France would hold this forest here and capture it at September 9th. So just 2 days into the offensive, France had pushed into these forested areas and captured them. But Germany would start launching counterattacks at September 10th. Like, as soon as dawn broke, Germany would just go all in with her 100,000 men and just kind of branch in. They were trying to do pincer maneuvers. So it was really an all-in attack from every side. So with that, you had 100,000 men all along the border, but the generals could get them gathered in pretty quickly. Like, the generals of the German army had kind of gotten an officer setup a little bit easier for communication style, where everything down to their platoons and stuff could kind of act individually and receive orders to go places that they needed to go. So they would kind of squeeze in on the French here. Now, Poland would fall on October 6th, but really France knew that they would fall a little bit sooner than that. So France would actually start their retreat starting in October. They would only occupy this area for about a month, really. That's it. France, having the logistical issues that they had of getting supplies to the front lines and actually moving as quick as they should have been, caused them to want to retreat pretty early on in this little offensive that they had. Like, realistically, if France went all in with her 40 divisions and actually adopted an almost blitzkrieg style of tactic, they probably could have pushed all the way through Germany and probably, I'm not going to say ended the conflict, but probably would have brought World War II down just by like probably 2 or 3 years of less fighting. But that's if they would have went all in. Now, we don't really know that for certain because, like I said at the start of the video, France was very underdeveloped military-wise. You know, they didn't have all the tanks and the cannons and the vehicles to really go to this. A lot of that stuff was destroyed or put in museums after World War I. But I have a feeling that if 40 divisions of men and armored supplies would have actually pushed through Germany a little bit, probably would have done a little bit more than what they expected. Even generals after their retreat mentioned that France really should have stayed in Germany and kept pushing because they know they would have accomplished something more than just taking some forested areas and then retreating right afterwards. Now, as Poland started to fall, troops were going back home to Germany. And that's kind of why France started to retreat a little bit as well, because they had people coming back high on victory, feeling invincible, and they're all going to start pushing back on France on this front. So France made it past their marginal line, that blue line you see right there in front of the divisions. They put past that. They got somewhat close to the Siegfried line. They went into German territory. Did not capture the ideal towns that they wanted. Did run into Germans quite often. Many battles in this forest occurred. And then just went back to the marginal line. That was it. They did have some fighting on their retreat, of course. Germany wouldn't let them just go without a fight. But France would dig in the trenches on the marginal line right after this offensive. And that's where they would stay put until Germany would actually come and pay them a visit later. And not go where France wanted them to go. But all in all, French casualties were 2,000 people and 4 tanks. Germany was about 552 casualties, 114 people missing. Now, I did see some things that said there were some German aircraft lost, but then again, I've also read a couple of things that said there were never aircraft in the area because the Luftwaffe was over in Poland. Like, almost all of the Air Force was over there to make Poland fall as quickly as possible. So, I mean, if you know differently, do let me know, because I couldn't really find much on aircraft being over here on the Saar Offensive. But it just was interesting to me to figure out that France was the first country to really take action against Germany. It didn't really amount to much. Like, there wasn't a lot going on in the offensive. But it's weird to think that France was the first one to pay Germany a visit out of Britain and, of course, like the US and other people involved in this war. Like, the Allies really consisted of everybody on the western side of Europe for the most part, besides, I think, Spain. That's because Spain kind of had its own issue going on. But it's just weird to me that France was first. So that's our first visit on the Western Front. The following videos will probably focus more on the Eastern Front because we still have a lot of battles to discuss that happened in Poland in the future. But we will come back to the Western Front, and eventually we will go to the Pacific Front, because a lot of people see the Pacific as the US versus Japan, but really we got to look at Japan in their invasion of China as well, and their version of island hopping as they took the Philippines. But that'll be it for this one. I'll catch you guys in the next battle that we discuss, and follow me as we continue discussing battles in World War II.